For the foot hand glove, what we're trying to do is engage the neuromuscular control and the positioning of our toes. And so, ironically, what you can do is take your hands and interlace them between your toes. It may seem a little weird at first, and it's not necessarily super comfortable when you start because your toes have likely formed together. They've been smashed together in shoes and they've lost that dexterity. So what you can do is take your hands and work them in between, and then you can start to create a motion and a mobility exercise by moving those toes and manipulating them. You don't have to do all 4 fingers in between the toes at once. You can start with 1 finger, but then work on that, and then engage with that arch. Just play with your feet. Get them to move. Get them to create space and motion between the bones, between the ligaments, tendons, and joints. And you want to play with this. So we're going to spend a little bit of time each day doing this to reset some of this mobility. For the foot crunches, we're going to open and extend those toes, spread them out, and then we're going to squeeze everything together. So really make a fist with that foot and squeeze and try and clench it all together. You can't overdo it, so really squeeze hard and then extend. Back and forth, getting all the muscles to engage.
For the Digitorum flexes, what we're going to do is go to a big toe thumbs up where you hold the big toe and you're going to flex the other 4 toes. So these are the Digitorum. So the Digitorum are referred to the 4 toes that aren't the big toe. So you're going to hold the big toe steady, flex, curl underneath, and then extend. Now this is going to create some space in between this first and second metatarsal, which is the big operating thing we want to restore. You'll notice that by getting the toes to move independently, we're going to work on a whole different set of muscles. Hold the big toe up. You can use your foot or your hand, but as you get there, just focus on squeezing those toes.
For the arch pronations, you're going to take turns lifting up onto that first ray, so that big toe, then pronating across that transverse arch before lowering down onto that heel. So you're going to go to the big toe, down, lift up, pronate across to that 4th and 5th metatarsal, that pinky toe, and then press back up. So going back and forth. As you get more advanced, you don't have to lower down all the way. You can just stay up there and alternate back and forth on that pronation. But just make sure you focus on lifting the big toe up when you're on the pinky toe and lifting the pinky toe up when you're on the big toe. Lifting that heel up as high as you can the whole time. For the single leg tib turn, you're going to lift that foot up and then you're going to work on pronating back and forth. Now you might want to start in a regressed range of motion, just little partial ranges back and forth, but this is going to be a regression to develop pronation strength if you're coming off of an injury. Now notice, I'm touching the inside and outside of that foot, so the metatarsal, not just reaching with the toes, but I'm touching the bone on the inside and outside of the foot. Now this is that regressed motion, shifting left and right, left and right. The goal is to get that ankle to pronate and rotate to get as much blood flow to this anterior shin and lower leg as possible. And for this big toe first ray hip bridge marches, we're going to put the weight again on that big toe, that metatarsal phalange joint. And you're going to push into the ground as you raise your hips up. Now this big toe is a big engager of the glute, so as you lift up, make sure you're driving into that ground there. You're going to feel this in the calves as you have to work to stabilize this. Make sure the hips stay level. We don't want the hips to drop one side over the other. And don't let the outside of that foot touch the ground. Go slow and keep your elbows on the ground for regression. Lift them up as you get stronger. And for the 5th ray little toe hip bridge marches, you're going to shift again to that 4th and 5th metatarsal, so the outside of that foot. Keep the hips up, so make sure the glutes stay engaged, and you're going to take turns lifting off. You notice how much the muscles on the outside of that shin have to work to stabilize, and then as you lift up, make sure the glutes don't drop to each side. That's a marker that you're not engaging that, and this is a little bit harder because the big toe is not working, so you really have to stabilize and pull off the calf here, so the soleus and that fibularis muscles, but focus on the quality and stabilize that foot each rep.
For the forefoot balance, we're going to work on balancing on the forefoot. So you're going to put your weight on the balls of the foot and the toes with the heel and the arch off whatever ledge you have. It doesn't have to be high, but you're just going to focus on getting the weight into the front of the foot and having a balance. Now, it's going to be challenging because you're going to fall all over the place, but the goal is the more you can use your toes and your forefoot to put pressure into it and feel that and create balance, you're going to be able to engage this. And so we're integrating the entire foot into the lower leg and ankle. That's a good place to go. So we're going to go here for a certain amount of time, and then we're going to rest. These half-kneeling tib stretches, we're going to focus on the actual arc of the lower leg. So you're going to put the top of the foot down, but instead of just stretching through the top, we're going to go at an angle. So you're going to sit down, angle the top of the foot in, so you're not rolling directly over the top of the front of the ankle, but going around towards the side, and then just sit back. Support yourself with your hands on your knee, rock back and forth, and just allow this to move. You'll feel the knee start to rotate a little bit, and this is something you can hold on to something with your hands to take the weight off, but this should be an easy, safe place you can spend a few seconds or a few minutes every day just sitting and exploring as you open that ankle up.
The single leg pike lift, you're going to lean forward as far as you can. Keep your hands pressed into the ground as close to your feet as possible. Keep the legs straight, the VMO and quad engaged so there's no bend, and lift that leg up. Now if you can, try and be controlled on the way up and down. Keep that torso leaning forward as close to your thighs as possible.
For the Patrick step, we've got a very basic movement that's going to be incredibly valuable for this ankle. It's one of the best things we can do to open up the ankle in an active range of motion. So it's important that we get it right. We're going to start off with some type of elevation, whether it's 4 inches, 6 inches, 2 inches, or flat ground. It doesn't matter, but there's a few key points you have to keep in mind. The first, the whole foot needs to be integrated. You're grabbing the ground with that planted foot, keeping the heel on the ground. You're driving the knee forward over that midfoot. So even if you have to start on flat ground and drive the knee forward, but if that's all your ankle will allow you to do, that's 100% fine. But the most important thing is that you keep the hip square and the knee travels over the midfoot. We do not want to see the knee collapsing in with the arch or the hips flexing to do this. I'm telling you, if you focus on the quality of this, hold on to something to balance if you need, it will make such a big difference. So we really want to get the knee going forward. You might notice you have one side that's more strong or dominant than the other, or more mobile than the other. That's fine. You only do what you can do with the weakest foot. Make sure that the hips stay straight. Don't let the arch or foot collapse in. Keep the quality high. You'll see a huge return on this movement.